Welcome to the Root of Power podcast, where I teach you how to chase your joy, find alignment, and create a life and a business that you love, using actionable methods, interviews, and inspiring stories from people who know that true freedom is found within. I'm your host, your always hype woman and sometimes ass kicker, Amanda Chills, and I am so proud of you for choosing to step into your power. Come along, we've got dreams to build. Okay, my love, I have put everything that I offer for free on one page so that we are not doing more work than we have to, because why would we do that? Hashtag work smarter, not harder. So livemyhappyhealth.com/free. You are going to find everything I've created for not only leveling up in your personal life and building a life that you love, but leveling up in your business life and building a business that you love. Okay? livemyhappyhealth.com/free. Love you. Hello, fam. Okay, so y'all know we're doing a series where I'm interviewing some past clients who are just crushing life, basically, which is the whole point. After you work with a therapist, is like life is really good and it continues to be. So Emily is totally dope. Not only is she like mom extraordinaire, she's super funny, has a like such a good perspective on like being like, well, okay, life be lifing, but like, we're just going to get through it. And like, it is what it is. I'm so excited. Like, yay. I think people are going to love you and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I resonate with her so much. So hi.
I don't think that I understood that life could just be life until I met with you, though, because I was a control freak. I still have control freak tendencies. But I understand, bears are bears, and yes. I'm not going to try to tame them. So, which
is a lot of freedom, right? So, yeah, I forgot that you were a bit of white knuckling life when we first met.
Yes.
And that's what people do, right? They try and like control everything because they're like, if everyone listened to me, then everything would go well. And it's like, joke's on us. Nobody gives a damn what we say.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think I started with such, just wanting to control everything. And little by little, I let go of control of little things. And it was like, wow, I am not responsible for the entire world.
Which is super freeing. So can you maybe walk us through like what that was like before, like what it was causing? Because a lot of people do it and I don't think they realize that they do it. They're just like, oh, this is how I am. And then they're like fucking on edge 24/7. So what was it like before? And then like through the journey, what is it like now for you?
So I think I really started therapy because of one traumatic event. But then, once I worked out that, I started realizing, other problems that I had, which was honestly the control freak thing, just wanting everything to be perfect and trying to control everything in my home, in my life, and everyone else's lives around me was just suffocating me and causing me unnecessary stress. So, I have 5 kids, so teaching them responsibility rather than just handing out a list of chores, which, it started with a list of chores, but then it's like, wait a minute, this is still controlling. So while that is sometimes still necessary, if I just teach them little by little to take on some of the responsibility, then I don't have so much responsibility. Telling my husband like, hey, you can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for the 6-year-old while I am in the bathroom with the door locked, just breathing for a minute is okay.
It's okay.
Right. And I think my biggest thing was I was controlling my life with an eating disorder, which honestly is still a daily struggle. I don't have to use an eating schedule anymore, because
Yay.
kind of I've gotten past that, but I still like I'll look at the clock and I'm like, oh crap, it's 10:30. I haven't even thought about what I'm going to eat. So
Mhm.
there's granola bars in the cabinet, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
And another thing is just sometimes things are good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. I love that you said that because good enough is like, I'm sure we've talked about how like half-assing things is enough. Like half-ass the majority of things and they still get done and it's fine and no one dies. So then you can whole ass other things. And that's such a freeing thing too, because typically when people are very controlling, they're also very perfectionist. And then like they don't do things they want to do or they don't do things that they like need to do because they're like, well, it won't be perfect, so I just won't do it. It's like, just make it suck. It's
Right.
fine. It's done.
Right. So that's very true. I used to stress so much over having perfect dinners for the kids, but
Mm,
honestly, my kids would rather have a sandwich or
yeah.
hamburger helper.
Kids
And
want
then,
food.
right, why am I going to stress out over something when it could be so simple? Um, the house doesn't have to be perfect. Absolutely no one is looking at it except the people that live here. And
Right.
if no one cares, then why do I care?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love that you said that. I love that you
and
said that.
aside from like dishes and laundry, who cares?
Who cares? Right. As long as there's no like I watched an episode of Hoarders once, which oh god, that show makes me sad. Where this person had like cats on cats on cats. And they were like, I love these cats, I love these cats, I love these cats. And turns out when they were cleaning out the house, they found like multiple dead cats like buried in the trash. And this person was like sobbing about these cats that they loved. And I'm like, one, I don't know that you love those cats as much as you say you do, because that's a problem. But two, obviously, like hoarding is its own like very, very intense mental illness. Um, so as long as it's not like, hey, I've got dead cats buried in my laundry, it's like the kids are safe, we're safe, everything is fine, no one's dying.
Right. And we actually do have lots of animals, but I know when to stop with animals. I know when I can no longer afford to feed any more animals,
Yeah,
and this is enough. Um, on one occasion, though, there was a starving homeless animal, and we did take that one, but
of course.
it's okay.
Well, that animal was smart. It was like, these people are nice and they'll take care of me.
Right. So are exceptions to my cutoff, my limits.
Oh, sure.
Sometimes can be pushed.
Well,
But
flexibility is its own gift. Is like rigidity, which happens when you're a control freak, which happens when you're a professional, when you're a professional perfectionist. Like that rigidity just makes you white knuckle life so hard, and it's like you're not even enjoying life. You're just mad all the time, which is not
I
okay.
I wasn't enjoying life until I let go of some of the control though, and like looking back, I can see now that that was my problem.
Mm.
But when I was so consumed with everything and trying to control it, I did not see that.
Yeah, you're
So
like they're the problem because they're not doing what I tell them to do.
everyone would just listen. No one listens, no one cares.
No,
These
right?
these children just want to go make mud pies. They don't give a
They're
damn
just
that there's
that's fine.
that there's so much stuff that needs to be done, but why does it need to be done? Is it going to benefit me? No. I mean,
Why does it
obviously.
need to be done in this way? Like I run into a lot of parents who are like, "Well, I want them to get up now and clean or do something," and I'm like, "Are they in the middle of something?" And they're like, "Well, yeah," and I'm like, "What if you just gave them, a 5 minute warning?" And they're like, "But then they wouldn't do it on my time," and it's like, "Yeah, but they would do it. Period." So it
Right.
gets done, which is nice.
Right. I think I try to give my kids at least like 15-minute warnings
Yeah,
because they
because they
are
don't.
all in the middle of something, whether it's a video game or like talking to their friends on the phone or playing outside in the woods, it takes 15 minutes to get out of the woods at least. So, you
I
know,
love it.
I have become a lot more lenient with the kids, and I
Yeah.
think that they appreciate it. They don't appreciate the responsibility I've put on them, but I appreciate it.
And it's like, a lot of adulthood is getting to do what you want, but also a lot of adulthood is getting to do the things that are beneficial to do if you want to continue being a successful, happy adult. So it's like, do we want no responsibility? Yeah, maybe, but like, is that realistic? No, not at all. So it's like, that's a valuable lesson in and of itself, is like, I don't particularly want to pay taxes, but I also don't want to go to jail because this is going to become somebody's bitch, and that's like not my vibe at all.
Exactly. So,
I appreciate. Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I appreciate that you mentioned that you like eating is still something that you have to be very mindful of, because I think a lot of people misunderstand. Well, one, a lot of people misunderstand therapy because they're like, oh, I'll always have anxiety. I'll always be depressed. I'll always have PTSD and it'll never get better. And I just have to learn to cope with it, which is like, that particular part is not true. You can heal all those things. But on the other side, sometimes people think, oh, all these things will go away and I only fire my therapist or I only quit when everything is perfect and great and I never struggle with that again. And that's not necessarily true. Like, depending on what people are dealing with, sometimes you get to a point where you're like, yeah, it's still there, but it doesn't bother me. It's easy to manage now. Not that I want people to cope with things. Like, I want people to manage them where like they're actually the ones in control. So I appreciate that you say like, yeah, eating is still something that I have to be mindful of. And I know for you, it's a good barometer. If like shit is really hitting the fan, how like your relationship to food is a good test of like, okay, how stressed am I right now? And then it's like the things that people come with that they struggle with become really good barometers in the future to say like, how mindful am I being of like taking care of myself? And it's like, oh shit, I haven't eaten in 2 days. Oh, okay, something is wrong and I should examine that. So I appreciate that you say that, because I think it's important for people to know that like not everything goes away necessarily, but it does become so manageable. And it just becomes something you have to think about versus like something that's running your life.
Yeah, it really did run my life, because I think I got down to about 95 pounds as a grown ass woman, and that was not okay.
Yeah, it is
Um,
very tiny.
well, I was just unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then aside from looking physically unhealthy, I felt terrible. I had headaches every single day because I wasn't eating, and
Yeah,
it just, my body and everything was deteriorating. So, um, but yeah, just like you said, when I get stressed out, I don't eat. And then I realize, like, I have dropped 5 pounds in 1 week, and that's not normal when I'm not trying to lose any weight because
yeah.
I'm comfortable with the weight that I am. And it's like, okay, what exactly has stressed me out? What can I do to fix this? Or is there any fixing it? And
Great
I'm gonna
distinction.
I'm gonna go eat a snack and try to figure this out.
Yeah. Let me eat
Yeah.
while I figure things out. Yeah. How did it impact you to like embrace the concept of like, I can only control so many things and the list is really not that big. And while I may have influence on other things, I can't really do a damn thing about the majority of things because like other people are in charge of their lives. Like, how was that for you?
I think I just felt so bad. I was drinking a lot to try to deal or try to not deal with things, which created its own set of problems. I was controlling my eating by just not eating, and I just felt so bad. And I knew that, like, the human body is not equipped to deal with nothing but alcohol. You cannot live like that.
You can,
And
but not very well and not very long.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that I just realized, like, this is the only life I get,
Mm.
and I don't want to fall apart at a young age.
Yeah.
So I have to do something. And then it did not go quickly. I had to let go little by little.
Yeah. Which is
And
normal.
yeah, and then once I started letting go of a few things, it was like, I really can let go of a lot of things. I can let
And
go of most of this shit that stresses me out.
yeah.
And, or I can, if things still need to be handled, it
Mhm.
can be by someone else. It doesn't all have to be me. Um, so,
Yeah.
and thankfully we have a lot of family help,
Yeah.
like with the kids. So rather than stressing out about how I'm going to be in 3 places at once, I'm
Mhm.
just like, hey, can anyone help me?
Yeah. Yes. Because when we first met, there was sometimes a reluctance, I think, to like asking for help, which is such a benefit. And I think a lot of people like aren't very good at building community, which is part of the problem. If people have never had anyone reliable, then it makes sense that they'd be like, well, I'm not relying on anyone. It's like, okay, well, that makes sense. But the answer is not to just then do everything. The answer is like to build a community that reciprocates, which is its own skill set.
I,
But it does make life a lot easier.
I have got the best community. I have stayed really solid with my oldest son's family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, or his dad's side of the family, his dad's side of the family, they have tons of kids. And so sometimes their kids are at my house, and sometimes all of my kids go to their house.
Amazing.
And my parents and my husband's parents, if one can't help out that day, I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
no problem. I have other options.
Yeah.
And then, besides that, my kids are getting older and
Mm-hmm.
they have friends who have the most awesome parents.
Yay. We love that.
Yeah, they have made some really good friends. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like I have the best village right now, but it hasn't come all at once, and it hasn't come easy because I was so reluctant to ask for help. I just kind of pushed everything away.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted things to be done my way, and they didn't do it my way. And I'm like, fine, then just don't help. But that's okay.
You just end up screwing yourself, which is, it's like, I know people are a control freak if they're like, oh, the dishwasher has to be loaded a certain way. And I'm like, why? They're like, I'll load the dishwasher behind my partner. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of work for no reason.
Yep. Well,
For no
I cannot be in the kitchen while my kids are doing their dishes, or my husband, because
reason.
I'm not going to do them by my standards, and I can't watch it. I still want them to do it, but I cannot watch it. So I still have that little bit of control freak. Of
Yeah,
course, that has not gone away, but I'll just walk away.
we just fix it. Yeah, it's like if I don't see it, it's like fairies do it. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine.
Yep.
It's funny.
I'll help them like with the washer and dryer because I
Sure.
can't buy a new washer and dryer if they fuck them up. But
Fair.
but other than that, like if your clothes get literally tossed into your dresser, that's your problem. Then you
Right.
can't use your dresser. Then you have cat hair on everything because they love the dressers. And my clothes don't have cat hair, so I'm fine.
Right. And it's like, who cares? That's so funny. That's so much freedom. It's like, how much time did you get back in a day?
Hours.
Yeah.
Hours.
Wild.
Laundry for 7 people was literally like
All day.
all day. And, when I got so down, I was like, fuck the laundry. I'm going to lay in bed. And then it became unmanageable. And I'm like, well, now what do I do? Now we have no clean towels and we have to air dry. So, so
Yeah.
giving everyone just a little bit and reminding them if I have to, because they are still kids, they need reminders.
Yeah. Right.
Even if it's, I tell you every day, but it's okay because I'm
Yeah.
also not perfect, but neither are they.
Right. We're just really close. Something I always admired about you is that as a parent, you are so realistic about like where kids are and like what they need and what would benefit them. And you are so, so good at like all of your kids being kids, but also like knowing them as individuals and what each individual needs. And like doing it with one kid is hard, but doing it with five is like, I don't even fucking know. Like, incredible. But like as a parent, you have always been like, I give my kids what they need individually and I know them like you know them so well as individual people. And I can't tell you how many parents I work with who like either really don't know their kids or want them to be someone else and then completely miss who their kids are. And like that's something that you do so naturally and so well. And you're just like, my kids are feral gremlins and I love them and it's amazing. And it's like, that is such a gift to a child just to have a parent be like, fuck it, you're great. Like you're great as you are. It's such a gift.
I think I always said when I had my own kids that I wouldn't try to force them to be anything other than what they wanted, as long as they're decent human beings. You know, you can't go act a fool and hurt other people, but I mean, you can act a fool. That's fine. I still do it. As long as you're not hurting anybody else with what you're doing, I am okay with that.
Yeah, that's such a level of freedom.
My kids, they are so different because we have a blended family, so they're all coming from different places. I mean, you know, we run our house one way, and it's not very tightly run, but we run our house one way, and then they go on the weekend to their other parents, and it's each one of them has a different lifestyle over there. So, you know, and then why would I try to change them? I hated when my mom tried to control my life. That was the thing, realizing like, oh my God, I'm a control freak like my mom. I can't do that.
My God, I'm my mother.
I'm not controlling everyone's life because my mom did not enjoy her life when we were little. I know she, you know, there was a lot of times where I could tell she didn't enjoy motherhood. And so I felt like a burden, and I don't want to make my kids feel like that. They get on my damn nerves, and I tell them that. But I also tell them that I love them, and I wouldn't trade them for the whole world. But I like seeing, you know, who they become and just giving them a little bit of guidance. Like, you have to wash your dirty socks. You have to be nice to people. You know, but what do you like? What kind of music do you like? I'll listen to whatever. I only have one child that's into country music, thank goodness, because I can only handle so much of that. But, I love that for her. You know, we jam out when it's her turn to pick the music in the car. We still jam. So, and besides that, they're becoming teenagers. I have 3 teenagers right now.
Wow. Fun.
So, yeah, they're really coming into themselves, and I really love to see it.
They're my favorite age for kids. I'm just like, yes, you weird little gremlins. They're so fun.
They're all very weird. I love it.
Love it. You had not done therapy before we started, correct? No. Okay. So when you were like, oh, okay, I think it's time to go talk to someone, what was like your idea of therapy? And then, because I tend to run things a little differently than like, I'm not very Jackie O, which if anyone has ever listened to any episode or knows me, that is quite clear. What was that like having, because everyone has like an idea, right? Where it's like someone in an office with like a clipboard. I almost said clip pad. That's not, I don't know if it's a word, but like a clipboard, and they're like, oh, so tell me how that makes you feel. Like, which sometimes I ask, but like, what was the idea before? And then after having gone through like a couple sessions, how was that adjustment?
So before I started therapy, I think I was just completely hopeless. And I really thought, you know, we'd be in an office and I would probably be prescribed medication because I was so crazy. That was honestly what I thought was going to happen. But then it was the total opposite. We were sitting outside, there was fresh air, there was someone listening and validating my feelings, and that was like the most helpful thing, was being validated. Like, yes, this is happening and this sucks, but you can't do anything about that. So fuck it, you know, and I love that. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Yeah. So I really, really expected to be told that I was crazy and I needed anxiety medication and probably antipsychotics, because I was so hopeless. But then it turned out to be validation and problem solving, just letting go. And that was so much more helpful than medication, like, ever, because I feel like medication, I mean, you could possibly be on it for the rest of your life, but some people do need it. You know, I'm not taking away from that, but for me, I didn't have anything that required medication. I just needed to get out of my funk.
Yeah.
So,
and I find that that's true for most people. Like, medication has its place. Sometimes it gets people to the point where, like, if they're so dysregulated that, like, they can't even focus, then, like, medication can be really beneficial because it'll bring their system down to a point where, like, we can even do work. So, like, for some people, like, it definitely has its place. I'm not a big fan of people starting medication first, because it will seem like the problems go away, but really, hi Kitty, really they're just less reactive to it. But then it's like, you don't learn how to deal with life when you just shut down. And that's the unhelpful thing to do. But it is a lot of, like, validating and problem solving. And I take that approach for a reason, because I don't believe in people doing therapy. Hi Kitty. And people doing therapy for, like, the rest of their lives. Like, why? Like, I really like you, you know, but you don't need me for the rest of your life, ideally. Like, that's not a thing. But the amount of times that I tell people where I'm just like, damn, that sucks. And people are like, God, yes. And it's like, sometimes the most powerful thing is someone just looking at you being like, that shit is awful.
Yeah.
And just acknowledging that, like, it sucks.
The validation was so helpful, because if I talk to anyone else in my family, in my circle, they're like, oh, well, you need to do this to fix it. You need to do this. I can't do that. I can't fix it. This sucks. And it is what it is. And sometimes I do just need to let go. Or, I need to do healthy things to solve these problems and not
just cut someone out.
Right.
Yeah. Especially like I know you came with some family stuff and other adults were involved, and, like, especially where other adults are involved and you have a limited capacity to influence or to control. Like, you can only control what happens in your house, right? And you can request things, you can influence things, but your sphere of control is gone the second anyone steps out of your door. And so I know that was particularly hard. And I think that's something a lot of people with, like, blended families experience, especially if the other blend is not doesn't have the same skills that, like, you have. Then it's like, okay, it becomes a lot of mitigating. Like, how do we do what's beneficial for the people in our sphere of influence when they're in our physical presence, and then how do we, teach them to protect as best they can? Like, with blended families, it's a lot of, like, mitigating and a lot of saying, like, okay, I can only do what I can do when they're with me, and the rest of it.
Right. I would worry myself sick. I would just worry myself sick when the kids would leave me, because I'm like, they're not going to brush their teeth this weekend. But honestly, whatever. If they get a cavity, I'll take them to the dentist. And, once they have their teeth drilled a couple times, surely they'll get sick of it. But
probably.
I feel like I stressed so much about the kids when they weren't with me that I didn't enjoy my kid-free time. And that's a problem, because it doesn't happen often.
Yeah. And then you don't get to decompress, because you're just winding more, which is not helpful.
Right. So the only
Mm.
thing I really can do is teach my kids to be decent humans and, how to take care of stuff for themselves. Like if I feel
Mm.
like, where they're going, their needs aren't going to be met. Like, hey,
Mm.
this is how you make food for yourself. This is how you brush
Mm.
your teeth. This is how
Yeah.
this is how you do laundry. This is how you do these things.
Yeah.
So if no one does them for you over the weekend,
You
here
can
you
do
go.
them.
This is how to do it.
Yeah. And where most people go is they just get angry at the other person. They're like, you need to do this, you need to do this. And they're like, they're just not going to do it. So it's like, yeah, it'd be great if they did, but they ain't gonna. So let's do the thing that actually has an effect, which is,
That was
yeah,
me. I would, fuss at people. You need to do these things. And they're like,
they're not gonna.
no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you suck. I'm just going to stretch.
You suck. Which it doesn't take the anger away, right? But it does make life easier because then at least you're doing something that's effective. Um,
Well, it did make all the anger go away actually
oh,
over
good.
time. It wasn't immediate, but
Mm.
I really feel like there is only so much I can do. And while I have really good problem solving skills, not
Yeah.
everyone wants me to solve their problems.
Some
So,
people love their drama llama land, and I'm just like, okay.
yeah, it's not worth it. It takes away from the quality of life.
Hmm. Yeah. So a lot of people think I'm kind of an asshole because in my brain, when people are like determined to drown in 3 inches of water, I'm just like, okay, die. And then people are like, oh my God, you're so rude. And I'm like, what am I going to do with somebody who's determined to drown? They're going to die. I'm not going to hold their head up for the rest of my life. I have things to do. Like my life is good. You know why? I don't do bullshit. If you want to drown, die. Like that's on you. Obviously, don't commit suicide, people. Like, let me just add that caveat. But like, if someone is determined to drown, to be in their drama, like, I'm not going to save you. I can't.
Right, because that is out of your level of control.
Right? Yeah. Like, I'm not going to move you into my house and like watch you 24/7. Like, die
Yeah,
in the grave that you dig.
you do have to come into therapy with an open mind and willing to
Yeah.
accept what's being said and accept that you knew a whole lot more than I did about what you were talking about. So
Yeah, well, I really find that like the people, one, by the time people come to therapy, it's usually like a last resort. So they're like, oh, I'm willing to try anything. And it's like, oh, great. I love that space. Um, and I find the people that resonate with me do very well with an honest approach. Like, I'm not someone who handholds. I'm not someone who sugarcoats. I just don't have the patience. Like, I want you to get better fast. And if I spend 3 months sugarcoating, it's like I'm just wasting your time, and that's stupid to me. Also, it's annoying. Like, you don't need hand holding, you're an adult. And I assume that like everyone who works with me can handle the truth. Now, that's not to say that like I'm brutal about, well, sometimes it feels brutal because I'm like, okay, this is a fact, but I'm not like intentionally trying to be an asshole. But I do find that the people who work with me are like, they just resonate really well with that. Like, I'm not for people who need a lot of like hand holding, and thankfully I don't get a lot of people who need hand holding because I think they can tell. They're like, oh, I may need someone nicer. And I'm like, great, I'll get you to one of my team members, but like, that's not me.
I appreciated that so much though, because I feel like I can take you at face value. And I feel like there were so many people in my life that would, you know, I guess sugarcoat things to try to make me feel better, but it's like this
Yeah.
does not make me feel better. That's not true.
Yeah.
Don't tell
Or
me
would
that.
talk out two sides of their mouth. And it's like, oh,
Oh,
I don't have time for that. Like,
it's not
yeah.
helpful.
No, it's really not. And it's like, I'm here to make people feel better, but not by lying to them. Like, it just doesn't benefit anyone. And like, the cool thing is like I've always been like this, and the problematic thing is like everyone hates that in a teenager. So like as a therapist it's great because people like pay me to be honest, versus like when I was a teenager people were like, wow, call a bitch out, and I'm like, okay, but you're doing things that are dumb, it makes no sense. Which,
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to do that now.
I feel like I am the same way with my kids. I'm
Mhm.
very blunt with them,
Yeah,
and
it
I
saves
can tell
time.
I can tell that it upsets them at times, but then when I hear them talk to each other, they are the same way. And, my kids have a sibling code. I have no idea what happens when I'm not around, and they won't tell me because they're
That's
solid.
so funny.
It is. If someone comes up
like Fight Club.
bleeding, if someone comes up bleeding, they'll kind of tell me what happened.
Sure.
But I love that I've instilled that in them. They'll, that shirt looks a little weird. Maybe you shouldn't wear it. But then the kid who's wearing it is like, I don't give a damn what you think. I like my shirt. They're just
live your dream, kiddo.
Yeah. I love the honesty with the kids. And they are 100% honest. They still come to me, but where it matters, they're honest. But,
and it makes someone trustworthy, right? And like when you're honest with people, they just drop their guard because it's like they know that what you're saying is in their best interest, like, and with the intention to be helpful. So it's like, take it or don't take it, but like the intention is to be helpful, to make your life easier, happier, better, whatever. And it just becomes so much easier to like trust someone who does that.
Right. So my oldest son has actually started therapy with one of your little birdies. And I'm so thankful because he has run into a lot of dishonesty and it's broken his trust. Middle school's rough. Being a teenager's rough. And nobody wants to hear what their mom has to say, even though I am pointing out this is what's happening.
Right. And honestly, my therapist that he's with is probably saying some of the same things you say. And then people would be like, yeah, right, 100%. And it's like, bitch, I say that every week. But
yeah, you don't want to hear
from his mom.
And I get that, which is why, I felt like, well, a lot of stuff blew up, which made therapy 100% necessary. But I had been thinking for a while, like, you need to hear this from someone other than me.
All right. And let me pay someone to tell you exactly what I'm going to tell you. And
the teenagers around you that you're friends with are not qualified to give you advice. So you need to hear from someone that's licensed.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Is there anything in particular that you that was like really helpful to hear, or like a framework that was really helpful?
I think the thing that has stuck with me in every aspect of my life is, stop telling a bear, or don't tell a bear to not be a bear, or however you word it.
Yeah, don't make a bear a puppy.
Yes. Yeah, because now, like, with every situation, I'm like, wow, that is just how it is.
That's how it is.
I do not have the resources to change this. I don't have the time or the patience to change this situation or this person.
Right.
Why would I put my energy into it?
Yeah. Which immediately makes you better at problem solving, because you're solving the right problem, which is, how do I just go around this person or this situation, versus like, so I'll explain, don't make a bear a puppy, or you can't make a bear a puppy, which is probably how I say it more often. So a lot of people, when they have someone in their life who is being problematic, they want to change the person. If only they would do this, if only they would do this, if they would just do this. Well, like, unless you're God herself, then you ain't changing nobody. Now, like, obviously people have more influence over children, but like, if you control a child, you lose your ability to influence them. So they may do what you say, but they don't trust you, they don't like you, they don't want a good relationship with you. So it's like, they're trying to solve the wrong problem. And because it's not possible to make a bear a puppy, you just get mauled every single time you interact with them, because you're like, oh, what a sweet little puppy. And it's like clawing your heart out of your chest. And then you're like, why am I getting mauled? And it's like, bitch, that's you. Like, you're treating a bear like a puppy. You're lying to yourself. You're not being honest about who this person is because you want them to be a puppy. But I am not letting a bear in my house because it will eat me in my sleep. Like, no, thank you. And then people are like, I'm so angry that this person mauled me. And it's like, yeah, bitch, it's a bear. It's not a puppy. Like, treat people as they are. and then solve the right problem, which means your life gets better because you're not fighting a bear 24/7. You have so much more energy to take a nap or do whatever you want.
Exactly. I think that I had to really take a step back and see where the bears were in my life.
Yeah.
And now it's easy for me to spot, like,
Love that.
That's just who they are.
Yeah.
This person may have this weakness, but their strength lies somewhere else. And that's where I can depend on them. So the biggest example is, we have such a good community with our kids and our in-laws and my parents and stuff. But my husband's mom, she would rather have adult time with me and Jonathan. She will babysit the kids, but it's not her favorite. Her favorite is seeing us all together, us with the kids, and, not being responsible for making the PB&Js. And that's honestly, that's okay. She put in her time raising her kids. She's got her own life. She divorced her husband and she has gone and made herself a new life. She is enjoying it. And good for her. That shouldn't piss me off. Yeah. I should be happy for her living her life. And I should be happy that she wants to spend time with me and my husband.
Sure.
So, and I think once I let go of, you never help me with the kids, she does offer to cook us if we also go. And if you want to cook for me and do the dishes.
Oh my God, talk dirty to me.
I'm there.
Literally.
You have saved my whole evening if you've done that. So why would I just stay pissed off that you won't just take the kids away, get them out of my house for a little bit? She's like, no, you come with them. You watch your kids and I'll just do the cooking. And it's like, wow, I watch my kids all the time. I can do that.
I've kept them alive this long. I can do it for one more night.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that you give that example because it's like as soon as you are honest about who people are, then you all like immediately the frustration drops and the relationship gets better because like you're not pissed off at them all the time, which is also awesome.
Yeah, I have really, even with my own parents, I'm like, well, this is who they are. This is what they're going to do. And I'll just stay out of whatever it is that's pissing me off because it's not my business.
Right. I'll just maneuver.
I'll just enjoy the time I have with you and enjoy, your strengths. And if you need help with your weaknesses and you tell me you need help, I will help. But if you don't tell me that you want help, I'm not going to get into it.
Suffer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, love all this. Anything that you, maybe if people are like, oh, like maybe it would work for me, maybe it wouldn't, I don't know, I'm on the fence. Or if they're listening to this and they're like, God, Emily's so cool, which like facts. What would you like tell people who are listening? What would you tell people who are listening?
As far as like going to see a therapist, I think I got really lucky with you because I have heard
there's some really horrible people.
Yeah, there are. I have heard of therapists that do just want to hand out medication. And I don't know if that's a therapist or a psychologist.
Psychiatrists do. Yeah.
Psychiatrists. Okay. Yeah. So
therapists can't prescribe meds. But a psychiatrist, that's actually their job. They don't see people for therapy. I like that you brought that up. So a lot of people misunderstand. Psychiatrists do not do therapy. They only do medication. Therapists cannot do medication. They only do therapy. So sometimes people will go see a psychiatrist with the expectation that they'll do therapy, but that's not what they do.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that so I could clear it.
So actually I have 2 kids in therapy. My oldest is with you guys. And then my daughter, well, my stepdaughter technically, but my daughter is seeing a therapist somewhere else. Nice. And she actually, her first therapist did not work out. So It didn't, and it's okay, but we found someone that did work for her, and she's been with her for 2 years now.
Amazing.
So, yes, and she's had so much progress, and it's made our relationship better, and we still struggle because she is coming into herself too, and we live together. It
Right.
is what it is. But I think as long as you go into therapy with an open mind, and while still, looking for like, is this working? Is it not working? Do I feel any better? I think you'll have success. And there were some days that I left therapy feeling like overwhelmed about everything we had just talked about. But then also in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, but this is what I need to work on. And, as long as I'm working on it, it will get better. Because
it's inevitable. Yeah.
If you have problems that you just keep sweeping under the rug, it's like, oh, they just keep piling up and it gets worse. And then you've got a pile of shit under a rug. But
facts.
I think I would come with a lot on my mind, and then I would leave with even more on my mind. But it was like, okay, this is how I'm going to tackle this problem. This is how I'm going to either solve this or try to solve this. And maybe there's no solving it.
Yeah.
I don't know. You go in with an open mind, and I could always expect honesty from you. I don't know that that's the same with every therapist, but the honesty and the validation was so important.
Yay. And we love that. Thank you. That's
I don't know if I answered your question.
No,
I think I'm
beautiful. No, you did beautifully. That's all I got. Dude, thank you so much. You're such a problem.
I recommend you to literally everyone. If you have a problem, I have a woman.
Right. You're like, I know someone who may could help with that. As long as you're not super sensitive.
I don't really surround myself with super sensitive people.
Yeah, that's
because I can't tiptoe around everyone. It's just, it is what it is.
Just like, it takes too long.
It does.
It takes too long. All right, my dude. Thank you so much.
No problem.